Before digital technology, audio recording technology was dominated by magnetic tape recording. The technology was developed in the 1930s and became the standard audio recording method in the music industry around 1950s. This led to the development of multi-track tape recording for music in 1955, which allowed the instruments and vocals for a piece of music to be recorded separately. Tape made recording for longer duration possible, and they could now be easily manipulated sonically. The major change in the audio recording in the 1980s was the replacement of magnetic tape recording system with digital recording. However, home studios were still using tape machines in the early 1980s. In 1972, Japanese corporation TEAC launched TEAC 3340, a reel-to-reel machine that is able to replicate the multi-tracking capabilities of professional studios. It can record 4 tracks at different times, and the levels could be adjusted at playback. This machine was the backbone of home studio recording and was improved in the 1980s with the introduction of Series 40 by TEAC. The TEAC Tascam 42, 44, and 48 offered much better performance and noise reduction. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, these home studios became even more accessible to a wide number of people through the incorporation of inexpensive cassette tape technology in models such as Tascam series of Porter studios. These type of recording units generally consisted of an integrated 4-track mixer and a cassette cartridge recorder, and could be easily integrated into the domestic space of amateur and semi-professional musicians' homes. Artists such as The Edge from U2 were recording early demos on 4-track or 8-track cassette recorders that were later developed into hit songs such as Where the Streets Have No Name. The biggest revolution in audio recording in the 1980s is the invention of digital recording. It allowed analog signals to be recorded and converted to digital data, and stored that way in a computer. The invention of digital recording can be traced back as early as 1930s when digital pulse code modulation was invented in Bell Labs. The technology was used for military phone line in World War II at first. The Japanese company Denon was the pioneer in testing digital postcode modulation in a music recording context in the 1970s. In 1972, Denon unveiled the DN023R, an 8-channel system featuring a 13-bit resolution and a sampling rate of 47.25 kHz. Later, 3M Company developed commercial multi-tracking digital sound system in the early 1980s. With the rise of digital recording, musicians gradually shifted to recording with digital audio workstation, i.e. the DAW. The creation of the DAW brought about a new way of dealing with multi-track audio. It allowed the user to create, record, mix, and even master professional, high-quality audio right in a computer, instead of on a costly tape-based machines. Working with the DAW is a much more practical and economical option for musicians. And the early example of DAW is the Fairlight CMI, CMI standing for Computer Musical Instrument. Another revolutionary change in music production is the MIDI recording. MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. It was first brought to light when Dave Smith the idea of a universal synthesizer interface in 1981. The debut design was a system presented in 1983 featuring a Prophet 600 sequential circuit and the Roland keyboard. The drum machines were invented based on MIDI technology. Commercial drum machines have been available in various forms since the 1950s. The release of Roland's first programmable rhythm box in the 1970s, the CompuRhythm CR78, which features 34 inbuilt present rhythms and 14 unique analog drum tones. It made drum machines more viable for professional use. Following it up were machines like Lindrum, Roland TR-808, and Korg Volca Beats. Drum machines evolved from analog synthesis to using samples of real drums. The price for drum machines also decreased very rapidly since it first became commercial. The price for Roland CR78, for example, has almost decreased by half since its first release in the 1980s. MIDI drum machines is one example of how MIDI technology is replacing the traditional instrumentation in home studios due to its affordable price, musical flexibility, and practical size. Early example of drum machines is Obscured by Clouds by Pink Floyd. The development of virtual studio technology slowly replaced hardwares in home studios. The VST system was developed by Steinberg to enable a complete studio to be created in software. By the late 1980s, a number of consumer-level computers such as the Apple Macintosh, Atari ST, and Commodore Amiga began to have enough power to handle digital audio editing. The first example of software technology was the Fairlight CMI, Series 2. Modern DAW appeared in the 1990s, Cubase Audio appeared in 1992, offering virtual plugins. Logic arrived shortly after in 1996. Albums made in home studios around the 1990s include Odelay by Beck, which was released in 1996. It was Beck's first hit album in the UK. It was recorded in the producer Dust Brothers home studio with the early version of Pro Tools that took half an hour to compile after each take. Beck used samples extensively on this album from old vinyl records, and many tracks used old synthesizer sounds. Now, virtual studio recording has become the most common way of music composition and studio production in home studios due to its mobility and high quality.
So I'm going to talk about the evolution of file sharing. Starting to this recording was made by the American inventor Thomas Edison. The aim of this research is to describe how music recording has developed until our days, and how the power of file sharing has given to the new artist the opportunity to be listened by the entire world. With this slide, we can see the evolution of music market until the compact disc. But the important thing that I would like to show is how until this moment any music support was tangible, while with the advent of the MP3. MP3 because for the first time we have an intangible music support. MP3 has been the result of many years of teamwork, and it is an audio coding format for digital audio which uses the lossy data compression, able to drastically reduce the amount of data required to store sound, while remaining an acceptably faithful reproduction of the original compressed file. In the 1998, Korea's Sean Information System created the MP-Man F10 with 32 megabytes of memory. This MP3's discovery, with its small size combined with the proliferation of high-speed internet connections, has allowed for the first time to download songs in less than a minute. However, file sharing was still a hard process until the advent of the Sean and John Fanning with Sean Parker, who launched the service as peer-to-peer system. It's peer-to-peer file sharing network called Napster. Peer-to-peer's event has been totally revolutionary because consumers had the possibility to acquiring every kind of music for free across a web connector network in MP3 format. How the animation show, we have the old client server system and the new peer-to-peer system. Therefore, how Luders said in our lecture, new technology combined with the internet PCs and less expensive and user-friendly media opened the gates for experimental and amateur producers. In 2001, Napster was sued for violation of copyright by the Recording Industries Association of America. And in 2002, Napster goes bankrupt, but after 1 year, it reopened as a payment service. In 2000, Apple bought iTunes. iTunes is an application developed to play and organize media files, allowing from the 2003 the online purchase of song, video, and movie through the iTunes Store service. YouTube is a web platform. It allows the sharing and display in video network, video sharing. And for the first time, users can upload, view, share, and rate video clips, trailer, news, slideshow, documentary, and so on. Currently, is one of the most visited websites in the world, after Google and VK.com. SoundCloud, it's a social sound platform where anyone can listen to or create sound and share them everywhere. Nowadays, YouTube and SoundCloud, I think, are strong influence media where amateur music producers have the possibility to be discovered from the big labels recording. Spotify, basically, it consists in a streaming service on demand, and in 2016 has achieved 40 million paid subscribers. With this historical overview in mind, it might be observed that the dark side of file sharing technology tends to be the homogenization of music culture fading the boundaries. However, this phenomenon has entirely the possibility to shape music world in the light of innovation and multicultural melting, as it happens in the case of jazz, that it may be considered a brilliant fusion between African rhythm and European classic music.
This list provides a small sample of the enormous number of EDM artists who began their careers using their own equipment. In this small sample are artists from Canada, the Netherlands, the US and Germany. Examples of countries from which artists with followings in the millions have originated. The UK, Sweden and France provide the perfect case studies for the global scene, but also the dominance of EDM in the sphere of home studio production. The global nature of the genre, which has been largely developed by home producers, is even clear in the naming of genres such as French house or artists such as Swedish house mafia. The home studio has allowed electronic music to become more of a recognised venture, with softwares such as Ableton and FL Studio becoming renowned as tools of the EDM producer. The first case study is that of the UK, which, with the help of the home studio, has produced artists such as Calvin Harris. In an episode of Channel 4's 360 sessions in 2011, Harris stated that, "If you handed me a piano and said, 'Play this,' I wouldn't be very good." Despite this, Harris has proved himself to be a hitmaker with a number of chart-topping hits, and has also crossed from pop to EDM to become a major celebrity. According to Forbes' 2016 rankings, Harris ranks 21st in the Celebrity Top 100 and is worth $63 million. His success is an example of the modern artist-producer blend that has become more and more common all over the world. Swedish music has also had a profound effect on the world of modern popular music. The home studio has only served to further this with artists such as Tove Lo, who spent 6 months producing a demo in her shed, which eventually led to her securing a publishing deal with Warner and working with Max Martin, or Avicii, who produced using a home studio setup. His tracks then caught the attention of Ashponori, who described them as unfinished and raw. However, later hits transformed him into an internationally renowned artist and producer. The third and final case study is that of 2 notable French artists. Madian has been producing since 2005 and began to upload music under various pseudonyms. His 2011 mashup video, Pop Culture, garnered 6 million views in a few days. His recent tour with Porter Robinson saw the two combine their songs using little more than laptops, launchpads and other home studio tech available to the bedroom producer. Madian's youth is yet another effect of the ability to find early success through practicing production. Daft Punk. In the 2015 documentary Daft Punk Unchained, former artistic director of Virgin France, Maya Masbouf, described how she listened to hit after hit in a home studio. This meeting would result in a record deal in 1996, which arguably led to later international recognition. As well as providing an initial impression, the home studio played an enormous role in establishing and maintaining the Daft Punk brand. So, what are the pros of the home studio from a global perspective? Independence. With the number of international producers in the EDM genre alone, it is clear that these artists have been able to produce more freely than before. The availability of both production tools and online exposure has undoubtedly helped this. As many of the aforementioned cases have shown, artists are now able to double as producers. Blogs such as Pensado's Place and The Recording Revolution provide free online lessons and tips, with the latter helping the band Tippling Rock achieve success at number 1 on Spotify's global and US viral charts. The song in question, Low Tide Love, was recorded in a dorm room with a $500 interface and $100 headphones. Performance. artists such as Avicii, who can be seen largely using the piano roll in a 2012 session with Future Music, are able to tour in spite of not having the necessary technical skills. The ability for songwriters to become famous without skill limitations has made the road to renown more accessible. Harris and Deadmau5 are other notable examples of established songwriters who have written hits with little or no ability to play an instrument. So what are the cons? It could be argued that with the oversaturation of artists, there is too much competition. On YouTube and Vivo, undiscovered artists only get 2.7% of artist views, which, when spread over all self-producing artists on such networks, results in an extremely low average chance of breaking through to the mainstream. The electronic music genre is undoubtedly cheaper to produce at a radio-ready standard, considering the cost of amplifiers, microphones, and additional tech. Compared to other genres such as pop, this might limit the diversity of the genres available to home studio musicians. Finally, it is important to address the final possible pitfall of home-produced music. Theodor Adorno wrote in 1947 that it is not long before such simplification of modern popular music extinguishes even the interest in domesticated sensation. On the Dutch radio show The Night Shift, Martin Garrix constructed the basis for a track in a single session. Whether this demonstrates efficacy or an extremely simple song structure and production value is up for debate.
Home studio technology has had a huge impact on the music industry, both positive and negative. So professional producers usually are much more highly qualified, experienced, and have an in-depth knowledge in sound engineering, and therefore the argument could be that laptop producers are more amateur and lack certain skills in production. Songwriting guitarist George Guccini in the Music Industry Today interview states that productions replace songwriting. Unlike before, where people had to have great songs to go in the studio, now anyone can record a song or even song ideas, and so production kind of hides poor songwriting. Overabundance of amateur-produced music. Andrew Garver, a Grammy-nominated mastering engineer, he said that readily available software, or DAWs, means that there's an overabundance of songs of questionable quality being uploaded to the internet. Secondly, impact on major studios and professional producers. The rise of home studios themselves and cheap technology has seen falling of major studios. In 2008, there was 4 closures of major studios, one being the Olympic Studios, which once held Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, etc. Gus Dudgeon, Elton John producers, stated that many studios in Britain are hanging on by doing just anything to get people in. And furthermore, John Harris, editor of music magazine Select, said the first thing the record industry said when digital technology came along was that people would still need top-flight studios, but as we see today, this is not true. He said you can buy the equivalent of a 20-track recording setup in your house for only $2,000. On the second point, the whole effect and impact of producers as a profession. Again, Andrew Garver says that home studios and laptop producers actually devalues the profession. And this could be another argument backing the point that higher number of producers or home studio or laptop producers equals a lower quality of actual good producers. Also, it's had an effect on the workload of professional producers and a reduction on the amount they charge per mixing or per production of track because they need to get more work. Thirdly, opportunity. In the 1980s book, The Third Wave, futurologist Alvin Toffler coined the term prosumer, where he predicted that the role of producers and consumers would begin to blur and merge. And this is what we see today. Cheap and accessible DAWs, digital audio workstations, such as GarageBand, which is free, and Logic Pro, which is the full version, costs around £160, means that anyone can produce and produce as much as they want as well, and most importantly, can produce any type of music they want. Along with that and relatively cheap and vast amount of plugins that mimic used hardware, along with a vast amount of software instruments, from strings right up to guitar amps, drum machine, produced drum kits, and synthesizers, as well as samplers, means anyone can produce not only to a high level and to a good quality as well, but can be as creative as they want. Unlike, say, before, where you need a string quartet to come in and you need to pay them to play their section. Along with that, and a combination of free distribution platforms such as YouTube and social media sites as well, Twitter, people can go and engage with people worldwide and share their music, such as Gautier's hit song in 2011, Somebody That Used to Know, that recorded and written and produced in his parents' barn in Australia, and now has got over 830 million views on YouTube, along with 2 Grammys. Home studio technology has also caused a massive effect on major record labels and has also seen an increase of independent labels. One example is OWSLA's, Skrillex's indie label, where he self-released and self-produced his first EPs. Chance the Rapper, who's not only being kind of labelled as the truly independent artist of today, but being the first artist to get an album in the Billboard 200 charts, all based on streams, and all of his mixtapes released for free. Tap Scott Williams' Wikonomics book, released in 2006, taps into kind of the term online knowledge communities, and these are communities online on the web where people can discuss and share different views and different learning tips online, all within specific topics. And therefore this is crucial for laptop and home studio producers, where there are a massive amount of production tutorials, such as on YouTube, blogs and forums to discuss and share tips and ask questions. Lastly, we're looking at the bedroom producer to stardom. Do we really need the major music labels anymore? Has the home studio technology, that is cheap and accessible, along with online distribution that is free, can we just have a bedroom producer straight to stardom? And the case study that I've used is Metro Booming, a trap producer. So he started making beats at age 13 on Fruity Loops, in the download for free or the full version for £60, when his mum just bought him a laptop. So he was just making beats on his laptop, honing his production skills, utilising social media platforms, and since then has collaborated with famous artists such as Nicki Minaj, The Weeknd, Wiz Khalifa, Future, and now recently has served as executive producer for Drake's and Future's collaborative.